Oh man. Alright. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, 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 hello. Type moon. Type goon. Yep. I can hear myself. Yep. Alrighty. Well, I should leave it open in case there are people watching, but alright, whatever. Yeah. So we're back. Happy to see you all here. Whether you were here last time or this is your first time watching, but yeah, we're back with more, which on the Holy Night. I actually do gotta check how many VODs I have of this game, because it's definitely past Valhalla. Like, yeah, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven VODs for Valhalla. Then one, two, three, four, five, six, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 VODs for Witch on the Holy Night. This game is long, man. This game is long. It's a visual novel, so gotta get the gameplay somewhere. But yeah, and streaming a little early. Excuse me, a little early. Decided to try to get some streams up. Hopefully, try to finish this game. Because there are some games that I do want to play for you guys, but I also don't want to just skip this game because I want to play it. I want to play it, especially with you guys. So, we're gonna finish this game, and then after that, we're gonna see what else we play. There's Claire Expedition 33, I think is what it was called. That game looks fire. Might buy that. I already have Sonic X Shadow Generation, so might buy that. Or I already have that, so I might play that too. Steins Gate, definitely 100% playing that, so you don't even gotta worry about that. But that'll come. That'll come. But yeah, last time we were here, we saw Alco and Alice go to the aquarium, have a fun time. Meanwhile, Souyjuro was here at the house watching the alligators, and Toko showed up, which is Alco's sister, Toko Aozaki. Seemed nice, then she wasn't, and she left as soon as these two showed up. She said a lot of stuff, so if you want to see what she said, the VODs are down below. Actually, I forgot to do that. I forgot to put the stream in a VOD playlist. VODs, yep, VODs right here. So, chilling, big chilling. But yeah, I hope this is a long stream. I think I might do like a longer one, but who's to say? So let's just keep going. No sooner had the eerie visitor left did Alco and Alice return home. Despite Alco's sour mood, she seemed as merry as ever. Despite everything that had happened and her trip having its fair share of problems, she still had fun. Whereas Alice was her usual stoic self. Her manner not unlike a parent following behind a rampaging toddler, cleaning up their mess. The scene of their return was like something out of a TV sitcom, and lost in thought, Souyjuro forgot to greet them.
Souyjuro, 留守中何かあった
Akko asked, more so out of etiquette than curiosity, while removing her coat. Without answering, he stood up from the sofa.
そりゃ半日分の出来事はあったけど、それより寒かっただろう。お茶を入れようか。
ああ、お願い。こっちも一から作戦練り上げようってとこだから。
That's such a cute still. That's adorable. Souyjuro was on his way to the kitchen to prepare tea even before Alco had finished her upbeat response. He was following his same tea brewing routine as always, but somehow something did not feel the same. As though in a trance, Souyjuro returned to the drawing room where they were settling down, and placed the tea on the table.
これからどうするつもりなの？ とりあえず足で探すしかないわね。あいつ相手に守りに入るのは良くない。こっちが城壁を作ってる間に一個師団の人形をこさえかねないわ。
They conversed with each other while ignoring Sojuro's presence. Upon hearing what they said, he stood up and spoke abruptly.
探すって東子さんを？
それ以外誰を探すって。ちょっと、あんた今なんて言ったの？
Yeah, the music. I was about to say, like, there's no way that he would say that and then not cut the music. Yeah. So I got some food with me here from earlier today. So if you hear me munching a little bit, it's because of that. Apologize for that. But I'm a little hungry. I'm a wee bit hungry.
東子さんなんだろ、青崎たちの敵は。さっきまでここにいたよ。
He answered so casually. Alko stood there dumbfounded. Or Alko standing there dumbfounded. Alice stood up from the sofa and went to where the two of them were standing. Her typically kind and somber features turned reproachable.
しずきくん、その人何かしていった？
お茶を飲んでメガネを外して帰っていっただけだけど、あれ、よく思い出せないな。
All his eyes went blank. Oh shoot. What was once a clear memory seemed to have been scrubbed clean from his mind. Souyjuro was overcome by the same dizziness he felt earlier. A sharp, dry smack echoed through the room. What snapped him out of his haze was an unexpected slap from Alice.
二度は言わないわ。他人を私の家に立ち入らせないで。
Deep within her eyes, beyond the normal cool indifference, was an intense fury. Realizing, however, this was no ordinary anger, Souyjuro understood how careless he had been.
アリスにとってここが大事な場所なのは分かってたのに。
A heavy silence followed. Both Souyjuro and Alice stood there, chained to the spot by their own regret. Alko looked on in amazement, wondering if they would stay this way all night if left alone.
あのね、姉貴を通した宗十郎も悪いけど、言ってなかったアリスも悪いでしょ。子供じゃないんだから、いつまでも反省してないで、もっと前向きに話をしない？
Alice hung her head and sat back down at Alko's insistence. Souyjuro stood where he was, nursing his stinging right cheek. Pain was pain, but he knew how to take a knock. More to the point, the crisp strike from Alice snapped him out of his fog, jogging his memory.
思い出した。青子じゃ私には勝てないって伝えておいてほしいって。
大した自信ね。他には？
他は基本的に世間話だったというか、あ、ソアとかモアとかよくわからないことを口にしてたな。
Considering the small talk was mostly about Alko and her flaws, Souyjuro decided it would be better to take that part to his grave.
大河と翔河？あの人インドにでも行ってたのかしら。ところで宗十郎、あんた姉貴に何かされたわね。
Alko turned to him, glaring sharply. He had nothing to be ashamed of, but he looked away guiltily anyway.
何かって何さ？
思い出せないとか言ってたでしょ。さっきまでの態度もふわふわしてたし。そうか、メガネを外したまでは覚えてたってことは魔眼にでも見られたか。
Yep, there you go. The mystic eyes. The mystic eyes. As quickly as she jumped to that conclusion, Alko went quiet again, as if the information was of little importance. But it was not enough to detract Souyjuro from bringing it up again.
青崎、魔眼ってなんだ？
魔力を帯びた目のことよ。簡単なものは一時的な混乱を、上級なものは睨んだだけで相手を殺すとかね。 ルみたいな魔眼の持ち主なんて伝説だけだろうし、そもそもそんな魔眼持ちが生まれてくるなら私たちの悩みもあっさり終わるってものだけど。
Without further context, Aoko knew her explanation was completely lost on Soujuro.
そうね。わかりやすく言うと、私の魔弾みたいなのを目から照射するようなもんよ。
目から青崎か。
Soujuro's confusion deepened along with Aoko's
だ
frustration.
からあなた一度目を閉じた後の瞳子の目を見たんでしょ。その一瞬で姉貴の魔眼に捕まったってこと。目を猫名詞に入れ替える魔術師もいるけど、姉貴はそんなことする必要はないから。あの人生まれながらの魔眼持ちだしね。刺したる準備も栄唱もなしでシャッターするだけで切り替え自由なの。
Soujuro pounded his fist in understanding. Now he thought about it. He vaguely remembered her doing something exactly like that. Everything after was foggy and muddled, and her mystic eyes seemed the only logical cause.
その話は分かったけど、瞳子さんは青崎のお姉さんなんだろ。なんで姉妹で殺し合いをしてるんだ。
He knew it was not something he should ask, but he did it anyway. The question was against the rules. He had no business being involved in this dispute. Aoko closed her eyes to collect her thoughts. She decided it was best for all involved to at least share some background information, if only to head off further
いい
questions.
わ、話してあげる。姉貴に関わった以上事情を説明しておかないと危ないし。けどなんであれ聞き返すのはなしね。この件に関しては私は私の事情を話すだけだから。
She stared down Soujuro until he nodded slowly in recognition. Knowing him, she knew this was confirmation enough. The conversation was becoming oddly friendly again, but Aoko sat up a little straighter as she prepared to tell the tale.
姉貴の話をするってことは、私と青崎の家の話と、何より魔術と魔法の話をしないといけない。少し遠回りになるし多言無用な内容だけど、いずれあんたの記憶は消えるから問題ないってことで。
Aoko made sure to add that disclaimer as a condition for telling him the information in the first place.
魔術っていうのはね、宗十郎、いわば共通のルールなのよ。ルーンやカバラといった魔術系統はそれぞれの科目、世界共通のマニュアルだと思えばいい。教科書さえきちんと持っているのなら、あとは血脈次第で誰でも魔術師にはなれるわ。けど魔法を使うのは別。魔法は魔術みたいに根源の渦から派生した写本じゃなくて、根源の渦に直接つながるものだから。この根源の渦っていうのは、宗十郎の分かるレベルに落とし込むと、まあ太陽みたいなものと考えて。遠くにあって何より初めにあるもので、それなくしては私たちは生活できないといった。魔術っていうのはこの太陽からの恩恵を利用しただけのものよ。この根源の渦っていうの
Why'd
は
she?
この根源の遠くにあって魔術ってい
Yeah,
うの
why'd
は
she?
この
Okay,
太陽か
whatever.
らの恩恵を利用しただけのものよ。自然現象の魔法ないし代償が魔術の本質だから。神秘を学び実践し再現するけど、神秘そのものを作ることはできない。いえ、研究の末にたどり着くんでしょうけど、そこには大きな壁がある。人知では越えられないリミッターみたいな壁がね。で、魔法っていうのは太陽そのものを扱うこと。誰にも到達できない場所に行って何者にも真似できない奇跡を起こす。お金をかけようが時間をかけようが今の人類には到達できない技術、それが魔法。次元の壁を越えるっていうか、最後まで走ってみたら全く違うルールでできた世界があって、そのルールを学んじゃったってとこかしら。前に 魔術に限界はないって言ったでしょ。あれは人知の及ぶ範囲なら限界はないって意味ね。対して魔法は限界だらけっていうか、一つのことしかできないけど、それも当然なの。だってこの宇宙の仕組みから仲間外れの一つっきりの交点なんだから。
魔術より魔法の方がすごいというのは流れ的にわかるんだけど、限界だらけなんだよな。
限界っていうか、特例、特権、越見の類ね。汎用性はないけど、誰にもできないことを可能とする時点で魔術世界にとっては万能とされる。そもそも魔法は根源の渦にたどり着いた魔術師へのご褒美みたいなもので、たとえその術者に魔法を使うだけの肉体性能がなくても、根源へのパスができただけで魔術的にはやりたい放題ってわけ。要は地球で一番のお金持ちになるってこと。
Souyjuro made an appreciative sound, impressed. On the other hand, Alice looked as though she wished to make many revisions to Alco's account. I mean, look. Bro.
一番の大金持ちか。じゃあどんなにお金持ちでも一番目でない以上は魔法はもらえないんだな。
まあそういうこと。時々とんでもない角度で確信をつくわね、こいつ。あんたの言う通り、同じルート、同じ方法で根源にたどり着いても、一番目じゃないと魔法にはたどり着けない。どんなに優れていても2番目以降には意味がないのよ。魔法使いが5人、いえ4人か。現存する魔法使いが4人しかいないのは、一度使われたルートは閉ざされてしまうから。大昔はそうでもなかったって話だけどね。根源への道、真理への到達に壁を作ったのは、皮肉なことに人間自身だった。未知を解明すればするほどルートが閉じていくなんて、昔の魔術師たちは思いもしなかったんでしょう。でも結果はこの通り。気がついた時には後の祭りっていうか、多くの研鑽の末、この世から魔法は消えていっちゃったわけ。
それは山と町の関係に似てると思っていいのかな。
ミクロな視点で言うなら似たようなものよ。で、つい最近まで現代の魔術師たちは残された最後の席を求めていたけど、それもちょっと前にどこぞの田舎者が横取りしちゃって、椅子取りゲームはあえなく終了。あとは魔法抜きで根源にたどり着くため、地味で無意味な魔術の研究を続けることになった。もともと魔法なんてのを優先してたのは一部の魔術師だけで、他の真っ当な連中はとっくに見切りをつけてたんだけどね。だって魔術師にとって最終目的は根源の渦への到達であって魔法じゃないし。
That's why I say whenever stuff like this comes up in these games, or well, this game, I always find it so interesting because this is all like its own entire system. Sure, magic is unique, but at the end of the day, like, this is a system across all of the Nasuverse. Like, this is legit consistent from like Witch on a Holy Night, all the fate stuff, and like anything that falls in the Nasuverse, as long as it follows this set of rules. But for the most part, it's pretty consistent.
そのあたり、いつの間にかごっちゃになっちゃったんでしょ。卵が先か鶏が先かって話。
よし、全くわからないってことは分かったんで、そろそろ本題に入ってくれ。あ、けど1番目の人間しか魔法使いになれないのに、魔法使いは何人もいるのか。
5人いたわ。最終的に人間に残される最後の課題は 5つだろうって一番初めの。青子。あ、じゃあ本題ね。
Dang, I really wanted to know.
魔法と魔術の関係が分かったところでようやくうちの話になるんだけど、青崎の家が代々魔術師だったのは前に言ったでしょ。歴史的には浅いけど運と才能には恵まれていたのね。青崎はなんだかんだって魔法にまでたどり着いたんだから。
ちょっと待った。じゃあ青崎がその。
私はあくまで魔術師見習い。使えないし使う気もないわよ、魔法なんて。私はただ青崎の家を継いだだけだもの。
Alko asserted herself. Excuse me, Alko asserted obtusely, her voice devoid of emotion. She became a mage not to wield magic, but simply because the succession of her family's magecraft was forced on her.
とにかく根源の渦にたどり着くには何代も何代も魔術を研究しなくちゃいけない。自分独自の皮を作るようなものなんだから、もちろんその過程は果てがない。よほどの天賦か典型でもない限り魔法を作るなんてできないしね。そしてもし根源にたどり着いてもふさわしい後継者がいなければ一代限りの奇跡で終わってしまう。だから魔術師は血脈を重ねて代々の魔力を時代に積み重ねていく。自分より優れた後継者を生むために。
Akko wrapped up the explanation by remarking that it was like producing a thoroughbred. Not that Souyjuro knew what a what? A thoroughbred? Let me see, what does this mean? Thoroughbred. Thoroughbred is a horse breed developed for horse racing. Although the word thoroughbred is sometimes used to refer to any breed of purebred horse, it technically refers to only to the thoroughbred breed. Thoroughbreds are considered hot-blooded horses that are known for their agility, speed, and spirit. The temperament. A thoroughly educated... Oh, okay. So for people, it's just that. Thoroughly educated or skilled person. Okay.
そうやって代を重ねて魔術師は作り上げた独自の神秘、守り続けた魔術を次の世代に伝えていくの。と最後の最後に全ての疑問を打ち消すに足る答えがあるはずだって。でも魔術師、いえ魔法使いだってみんな悟ってるのよ。
Vin Diesel, Bruce Willis. Oh man. Alrighty, let's see.
自分の代でもその次の代でもきっと最後の最後の最後まで誰もゴールにはたどり着けないって結末を。それを分かっていながら魔術を研究していくのが神秘学に取り憑かれた者の宿命だって祖父はよく口にしてた。けど私の姉はそうじゃなかったみたい。
She left, I can see why, hanging in the air. Alice had no response. The Ozaku family, passing down true magic. Alko, the reluctant successor. And Toko Aozaki, her elder sister.
本当は青崎の後継者は姉貴だった。私もうちの家業が何であるかは教えられてきたけど実践することはなかったのよ。魔術師の家系はよっぽど裕福でもない限り基本的に一子相伝だからね。うちほんと財力的には一般家庭レベルだし。で後継者にはより魔術に適したものが選ばれるわけだけど姉貴は確かに天才だった。けどそれは青崎の後継者にはいらない才能だった。その代わり私は心底青崎の後継者としてふさわしかったみたい。 まあそれはそれでどうも思わないけど、祖父がはっきりと私にくら替えしたのが15歳の冬の頃でさ。姉貴はいきなり4つ年下で、今まで魔術に関わってなかった妹に魔法の相続権利を奪われたってわけよ。
Okay, so Toko's 21. Alright. Toko has said that she was obligated to take what was Aoko's. He recalled how resentful. Wow, I can't speak. He recalled how resentful her voice had been when she said it.
あの人がどんな思いをしたか、私は本人じゃないから知らないけど、祖父と言い争って今まで愛用してたメガネを叩き壊して家を出て行ったのが3年と半年前。それから全く消息なしで、私は姉の代わりになったの。これが私と姉貴の争う原因でしょうね。
Souyjuro thought the story was tragic, but Aoko's voice had a tone of relief in it. Souyjuro did not know exactly who he should feel bad for anymore.
メガネを殺したか。
そう、あの人昔はすっごく目が良かった。生まれながら裸眼を持ってたって化け物だからね。けど祖父の期待に応えようとして無理して頑張った挙句、視力が下がっちゃったみたい。
Aoko wrestled with the memory, not sure if she had everything down exactly right. Souyjuro knew how well Aoko could hide her emotions, and this was not one of those moments.
けどあれに何の意味があったんだろう。
Let me see.
メガネをジジイに叩きつけるぐらいならフィンの一撃でも叩き込めばよかったのに。あの人あの頃が才能のピークだったんだし、猛録したジジイなんてそれこそ一撃だったと思うんだけど。
Ah, sinners. I love sinners. There you go. Alright. Souyjuro shook his head, disappointed at Aoko's misjudgment of the situation.
恨みつらみの話じゃない。そのメガネは大事なものだったんだ。だってそれは誰にだってわかる努力の証なんだから。それを叩きつけたんだ。痛かったんだろうな、トウコさんは。
As Souyjuro spoke, neither Aoko nor Alice noticed the grief he was fighting to hold in. Or more accurately, they could not understand his point of view. After all, in a world where mages are raised to fight other mages, empathy was in short supply.
けどどうして今頃になって戻ってきたのかしら。青子の言う通り、トウコさんならもっと早く美咲氏を奪えたのに。そうね、そんなに土地が欲しかったのなら3年前に私を殺せば後継者に戻れたのに。世間の荒波に揉まれて気が変わったとか。
違う。青崎は本当にわからないのか。
Souyjuro shook with a faint anger. His voice changed from the boy they thought they knew.
何よ、あんたならわかるっていうの。
誰だってわかる。トウコさんは青崎が一人前になるまで待っていたんだ。自分が失ったものと同じくらい大切なものをなくさせるために。
Souyjuro gazed at them, wondering why they could not see what he could. Only he was the one that did not understand. The two girls, and above all, Toko and Aozaki, denied themselves the type of relationships that other normal people are allowed to experience. Toko's actions were not fueled by hatred. While there certainly was hatred behind them, the real reason was, and always was, or always has been, Toko's pursuit of true magic. She was an ambitious and talented mage. Her hatred was only her veneer. Thinking of her in any other way would be an insult to her elder sister, who devoted her life to the study of magecraft. All this Alka wanted to tell Souyjuro, but instead stopped herself. And if she had, Souyjuro was not a mage and could never understand. And besides, arguing with him any further would not have brought her any joy. She could not have put it into words even if she had tried. And so,
やけに姉貴の肩を持つじゃない、宗十郎。もしかして一目惚れでもした？
in her own cowardly way, Alko dodged the subject. She smirked
肩ぐ
childishly.
らい持つ。あの人はかわいそうな人だからな。
Souyjuro did not take the bait. Alko was frustrated at his reply.
なぜ？
An icy glare replaced her smile. He did not falter, only plainly stating,
だって実の妹と争わなくちゃいけないんだろ。それはかわいそうなことじゃないのか。
this is the source of his frustration.
確かに。
Hako's eyes narrowed unconsciously, as if hiding from a painful truth. This guy is a poison, she thought to herself. A poison with no antidote. With his words, he was unwittingly bringing her weakness to light.
だけど私も姉貴もそれを何とも思ってないのよ。だってそれ以外に解決策はないんだから。
Souyjuro looked down and frowned in defeat. And that's sad too, he muttered. The current of the night had already fallen. Not even an hour had passed since Toko left the estate, and Souyjuro was feeling the distance between him and the girls. Akko and Alice felt much the same way about Toko Aozaki, who seemed more elusive than a phantom.
とにかく姉貴が敵だってことは宗十郎にも分かったでしょ。ならつべこべ言わず君子危うきに近寄らずよ。まあ姉貴もあんたと会って私たちとは全くの無関係だって分かっただろうから、そっちには手を出してこないでしょうけど。
Carla Juarez. Carla Juarez. Carla Juarez. Oh, I forgot I'm streaming. Sorry. I was watching I have Northern Lion on my TV, and he's trying to guess a game. And my game is and the guess that I'm putting out is Carla Juarez. if I'm saying that right, I'm sorry. I don't want my Spanish to sound a little washed. Oh no, Red Steel 2, wrong game. Okay, my bad. Alko seemed absolutely certain in her assertion, as if to proclaim that Souyjuro had dodged a bullet. Strangely, she was placing her trust in her enemy's sense of reason.
そうかな。そうなのかな。そうだといいんだけどな。
そうだから安心なさい。昔からいらないものには手を出さないんだから、あの人は。
そっか。青崎がそこまで言うなら安心する。あ、いらないものって言えば、東子さんが青崎のティーカップをもらうって、セーブルのやつ。
ちょっと待って。あんた、それを黙って見てたっていうの？
そうだけど、やっぱりあれは奪っていったのか。
Souyjuro nodded sagely, while Alko fumed. She wondered where his senior's manner and tone had gone. Sojuro's frustrating absent-mindedness had returned.
しかもセーブルのカップって私の一番のお気に入り。
Akko's fist trembled violently, but as much as she wanted to, she knew better than to play into Sojuro's carefree phrase. Not that he was even capable, but even if Soujuro did try to stop Toko, it would have gone tragically for him.
仕方ないか。そういえばあの人よく私の持ち物を奪っていったっけ。他人のものを欲しがる癖まだ治ってないんだ。
子供の頃はみんなそうなんじゃないのか？
He wondered aloud, curiously.
そうかな。私のクレヨンとか人形とか取っても仕方ないと思うけど、どうせ粉々にしちゃうんだし。
Souyjuro felt his heart jump into his mouth. The ominous foreshadowing was not lost on him.
それはどういう？
だからあの人って私の持ち物を横取りしてはぶっ壊すのが趣味なのよ。苦節14年、姉貴に目をつけられて無事だったものなんて一つもないもの。
Listening to Alko, Souyjuro recalled his conversation with Toko. He hoped he was imagining it, but he vaguely recalled her declaring Soujiro Suzuki as someone's property.
それはちょっと難儀だな。
Sojiro's face turned grim, not unlike a detective at a scene of a crime. A scene which left no traces of evidence or clues as to how the case could be solved.
でしょ？ひどい姉貴なのよ、あの人って。
Unaware of Sojiro's turmoil, Alko calmly sipped her tea. Soujiro watched as Alko shrugged her shoulders before looking over to the drawing room clock. No matter how heavy the mood, the time kept on ticking.
大変になるね。
Muttered the undeniable victim of today's injustices. Alko looked ready to move on from the incident, adding,
そうね。でも今はそんなことより今日の夕飯のが楽しみなんだ、私。
Alice seemed to second that opinion with her silence. Comfortable and relaxed, neither of them seemed to have any intention of leaving the sofa to prepare food. Tonight was supposed to be his night off from work, at least until midnight. But Soujiro knew that until the clock struck midnight, he would be serving on hand and foot the two ladies of the house. For one, it would take at least another hour to prepare something to eat, and there was no way the exhausted Alko and Alice would stand for that. So the only other option in the end was to have something delivered.
なんと瞳子さんについていけばよかったかもしれないな。
Man, free Soujiro. Soujiro opened his wallet as he second-guessed the situation. His eyes settled on the third and final 10,000 yen bill in his wallet. He stared back at him forlornly, reluctant to leave its home. With a heavy heart, he bid it farewell. There you go, okay. I don't think, with the way things were going yesterday, I don't think I would have been able to finish this chapter last night. Yeah, an extra 30 minutes would have been too much. Nah, don't save. I already saved here. So let's go to the archives. The world deploys. Yep. Our sister returns. Okay. Yeah, I guess there's nothing. Aozaki family affairs. Yeah, no, I think that's it. I think legit that's all there is, so let's keep going. Let's keep going. Ring, can you hear me calling? Alright, sorry. There we go. Just had to take a little bite out of some food. A little hungry, a little marved. Oh man, food is so good. Food is so good. Alright. To be honest, I might save that for later. I ain't gonna hold you. That's fire. That food was gas. Alrighty, sorry for a little intermission. This everyday tale started like any other. Souyjuro. The morning sun alerted Souyjuro that a day of work lay ahead. Specifically, the gardens needed tending to. And an unkempt garden made for an unhappy Souyjuro. Luckily, today was his day off from all of his part-time jobs. It was the perfect opportunity to get his hands dirty. There was one problem, however. The mansion's grounds were vast. Not only had the courtyard been left to run wild, but the area around the front door had been neglected too. To tend to these problems thoroughly, he would have to work on them week in, week out. In an ideal world, his task would only take a day. But for its enormity, for the moment, Souyjuro decided to set foot into the mansion's wilderness and evict the weeds. Wasting none of the early light, he started tackling the ones around the mansion. By his estimation, he could clear the forecourt, courtyard, backyard, and then take a small rest. Yo, he's gaming right now.
さあ、草摘みが趣味ってわけじゃなさそうだけど。
It was just before noon in the sunroom. Alice had come down, book in hand, to find Akko sitting down with a fashion magazine and elegantly sipping tea. Through the window, she could see the crouched figure of Souyjuro shuffling by.
朝からやってるみたいよ。起きてカーテンを開けたら、もうあの格好でスパスパやってたから。ついでに焼却炉の掃除も言いつけといたけど、いいでしょ？いいけど、頑張るのね彼。外はあんなにも寒いのに。
Alice quietly sat down. Her teacup had been placed on a table for her. She poured herself some tea and proceeded to open her book. The two sat passing time in silence, having happened to have the same idea, a night's everlasting teacup in the sunroom. With their evening roles decided, there was no need for idle chatter. Akko stared out the window, intermittently turning her gaze to her magazine. Alice was immersed in a book on a rude magecraft, occasionally tilting her head up as if to recall something. As if by unspoken agreement, in unison they pressed their teacups to their lips and glanced outside. To the two girls, Souyjuro appeared as if he were an animal in a zoo. Neither was interested in lending it. These lazy bums. Despite his sluggish movement, he was making good progress. As Ako's attention turned back to the sunroom, her eyes met Alice's. Alice returned her gaze to her book, though moments later, she raised her head again. He's gaming, bro. He's gaming. Let's go, Souyjuro. He's gaming. Clearing her throat, she attempted to focus on reading. It was no surprise that Alice admired Souyjuro's diligence. Not even 30 minutes had passed before he cleared the courtyard of its unsightly weeds. Without stopping once, the mysterious gardener left the courtyard, puffing clouds of white breath. The area he left behind was spotless. Alice muttered after scanning over his work. A stalwart Souyjuro worked confidently and incessantly. That doesn't sound like Alice. What the heck?
朝上から見てたもの。壊されちゃいけないからあれこれ。プロかしらね、あいつ。
Sounds like Alco, yeah. Alco muttered after scanning over his work. A stalwart Souyjuro, confidently and ceaselessly. She was impressed, like she was watching a scene from a great movie. But before long, she grew irked. Why would he waste his energy like that, she thought. Alice looked at the clock. If he starts now... Oh, no, excuse me.
焼却炉。今から手入れをしたら夕方ね。そっちはもう終わってるわ。朝上から見てたもの。壊されちゃいけないからあれこれ指示出してね。いやー、窓開けて散々となったから部屋が冷えること冷えること。
It was safe to assume Alco had come to the sunroom to escape her cold room. Between barking orders from her window and cleaning in the cold, it was clear who had the harder job.
しずきくん、何か言ってこなかった？言ってたけど、よく聞こえなかったわ。
In other words, his complaints fell on deaf ears. What a bot! With nothing else to discuss, the two resumed their reading. The ever so tense silence was broken by Souyjuro entering the house after finishing his cleaning. Yo, oh my gosh, bro. Oh man. He stared at the two of them, displeased.
あったかそうだね、青崎。
外よりは幾分ね。廊下の気温は外とあまり変わらないけど。それでどうして庭の掃除なんて始めたのよ、宗十郎。
Souyjuro's subtle jibe had failed to find its target. He had no chance of winning, so he just hung his shoulders in defeat.
今日は本当に寒い。明日あたり雪でも降ってくるだろうから、外の掃除は早くに済ませたかったのに。焼却炉は予定外だったぞ。
He sounded resentful, but his problem was not with the additional work. If anything, he was glad to do it. What he did not care for was how nobody had even bothered to lend a hand. Yeah, I see you. I see you down there, you goofball.
いいじゃない。焼却炉はみんな使うんだから。じゃ、その首相な心がけついでに2階の廊下に掃除機かけといてね。それと裏庭のブナの添え木壊れかけてたでしょ。工具箱はあんたの部屋に置きっぱなしだからそれを使うこと。で、全部終わったら私の部屋に来てくれる？いらないものまとめておくから焼却炉で焼いておいて。
Hence why she made him clean the incinerator. Cruel, but clever.
それで青崎、君は何をするんだ？
そうね、やることもないし、ギターにでも触ってようかしら。
Hako thought hard about how to spend her afternoon. Yet the thought of cleaning did not cross her mind, as had always been the case. No, it was not out of spite that she did not think to help clean. It was because the word cleaning was out of her vocabulary. Souyjuro knew exactly why the mansion was in the state it was in. So that did not change the fact that the corridor upstairs was very long, and Hako was not lying about how cold it was inside. It was not much different than outside.
そうか。あくまで掃除をする気はないんだな、尾崎。まあ掃除はしたいからするけど、こう一緒に住んでる人間をそこまでこき使って両親は痛まないか。それとも割と気づいてはいたけど両親そのものがないのか。
As usual, he might have gone too far. His remarks that hit too close to home. Alko closed her magazine and turned to face him. Infuriated, she glared, her sharp blue eyes piercing into him. Let me see, what did he say? Oh, that last part, yeah, I can see. Listen, to understand this situation, I understand where Souyjuro is coming from. He's upset because no one's helping him. Of course. Why wouldn't he be, right? This isn't even his house. This is just where he's staying because he has to. And so, he's doing this out of the kindness of his heart because he feels like, hey, it's kind of getting crazy out there. Let me do something about it. And nobody offered, to help at all. Not even because, like the narrator just said, not out of spite. But man, not even a little bit of empathy, which I guess goes to show, what's the word? How mages aren't empathetic because they can't be. That leads to death if they are. But man does it hurt. But on this side, Souyjuro, last line, it's a little too much. It's a little too much. He let his emotions get the better of him. Souyjuro knew he had not said anything unjust, but he always backed down first. He replied automatically, straightening his back in response to Akko's cold, calm tone.
私たちはあんたを同居させてあげてるんじゃない。これ以上ないって譲歩の末、仕方なく飼ってあげてるだけなんだからね。
Akko did not mince her words. Souyjuro nodded in defeat.
飼ってもらってるのか。
そう、番犬にもならないだろうけど。
Akko responded, already tired of the conversation. Souyjuro had little room to counter. He still tried.
しかし一方、番犬は間違っても自分の食い口をつけたり、天津さえ家賃を払
You know what? That's fair. He has a point.
なんか言った？
Oh man.
いや、負け犬の遠吠えを少しばかり。
Oh man, this dude Souyjuro is so petty. Oh my gosh. I'm just a dumb butt barking up the wrong tree. That's insane. He raised his hand dismissively, knowing he could not win. To Akko's ears, his attempt at self-deprecation sounded fastidious.
宗十郎、あんた本当に分かってる？
そうだな。君たちがどうあっても掃除をする気がない
So
ぐらい
petty today. Oh my gosh. Akko grinned at her pet's obedience. As long as he knew his place, that was all that mattered to her. She seemed to be extremely satisfied with his response.
余裕あるんだ、しずきくんには。
Her playful smile darkened, as did Sojuro's expression.
尾崎、なんだか息ができないんだけど。
このまま放っておくと、そんなことも言ってられなくなるんだけど、試してみる？
Oh no. He shook his head, his expression growing more and more grim.
懸命ね。私も窒息したいなんて見たくないもの。
The grating sound subsided. Soujuro gingerly touched his throat. The collar that had suddenly tied around his neck returned to its normal size.
気管が塞がれた時の苦しさを知らないんだろう、尾崎は。本当に抵抗できなくなるんだぞ、あれは。
だからそのための首輪だって言ったでしょ？今まで実践したことなかったし、あんたは相変わらず危機感ないし、ここらで一度しつけておいたの。それより掃除、急がないと日が暮れるんじゃないの？
はあ わかったよ。結局今日はこうなる星の運びだったんだ。
Souyjuro left the sunroom, his shoulders slumped and his tail between his legs. Hako watched him leave before turning to her magazine as if nothing had happened. Alice paid no attention. None of that had anything to do with her. Souyjuro gone, the room once again fell silent. Poor Souyjuro. Oh man. As the clock ticked on, Alice suddenly stopped flipping through her book.
どうして彼を酷使するの？
I'm saying. She asked as though talking to herself. Hako replied without so much as looking up.
別に最後には記憶を消させてもらうんだから楽しかったら困るじゃない。
Obscure as ever, but sincere in her own way.
そう。言われてみればそうだったわね。
Alice could not believe she had forgotten about the situation. He's starting to see a little change. Alice is warming up a little bit more and more as she learns more about Souyjuro. Even with the slap, you could tell like there was a little bit of regret. She didn't want to do that, but she had to. Wow, she's just... Wow. Oh my goodness. Oh man, she's cold. Silently, she looked up from her book and gazed outside once again. The courtyard through the window reminded her of where she lived a decade ago. Nothing could compare to the beauty of those gardens. But if that was the case, why did the scenery make her feel so nostalgic? All Souyjuro had done was take care of the gardens with the goodness of his own heart. In only half a day, he achieved so much. I love that song so much, good lord. It was Christmas Eve. The snow had started to fall. Oh. I love Christmas so much because of like the atmosphere around December. It's such a beautiful time because stuff like this happens. If it snows early, you know, we get a little bit of snowfall, but it's not about the snow. It's about, again, the atmosphere. Like these lights, like right here, they add so much flavor and life to the city when it's Christmas. You can really tell because people get into the spirit of it, and it's just so much fun going around Christmas atmosphere, this, that, and a third. It's just generally a beautiful time. I lost a subscriber. Wallahi. What do you mean I lost a subscriber? No. Man. We go through the struggle. Whatever. It was timing to... but yeah. I love Christmas. It's a great time. This timing was too good, as though it had waited for that day specifically. The cold, bustling main street seemed bright and vibrant under the layer of frosty white. Reindeer statues illuminated the surroundings. Children danced merrily to jingle bells. People walked along the brick roads, smiling broadly. These festivities, however, had now reached the mansion on the hill. Silence enveloped the isolated building. The shadow of the snow-covered woodland grew longer, beckoning into darkness. People returned to the warmth of their homes, knowing a bitter night lay ahead. Something had been amiss in the mansion all day. Perhaps it was the calm before the storm. Ooh. 2 days had passed since Toko Ozaki had revealed herself. Souyjuro was right. Souyjuro was right about snow falling. Good man. That's the mountain grit that he learned. Akko and Alice spent more and more time locked in their rooms. Meal times had grown noticeably quieter. With their roles decided, they were too busy with their own jobs to worry about each other. Souyjuro. Oh man, I love food. On this day, the two have been relaxing in the drawing room since morning. The mood was a little calm mood. Well, mostly at least. Souyjuro was fretting that tonight would be the same. He aimed his words towards the girls on the sofa, despite knowing they would be ignored. Whether the snow fell today, tomorrow, or not at all, it did not affect him. So it just meant a white Christmas. Of course. Akko remained silent. She wasn't ignoring him. She wasn't ignoring him per se. She just had other things on her mind. Souyjuro knew this, but still cast a lonely glance outside around the sunroom. The courtyard he had cleaned only a few days ago was hidden by by a layer of white. The falling snow would stop every so often, but then resumed again as if teasing Souyjuro. By next morning, the courtyard would be a winter wonderland. Akko and Alice sipped in an effort to fight the cold. Sipped tea in an effort to fight the cold. In fact, that was all they were doing.
そういえば、瞳子さんの髪の色は青崎より濃かったね。あんな綺麗な赤毛は初めて見た。短くしてるのはもったいなかったな。
What would you say that? What would you say that? Souyjuro rambled on, not expecting a response. However,
短かったって姉貴の髪が？
oh. Akko's expression went from nonchalant to its usual
それ
sharpness.
どういうこと？短くしてるって髪の毛のことよね。
Isn't a mage's hair a good way to conduct magic or whatever? I forgot. Something like that.
ああ、アリスより短かったけど、それがどうしたんだ？
別にあの人前は私より長かったってだけ。
Really? Oh.
そう、あの髪を切ったのね、姉貴は。
Akko spoke in a grave tone. Showing slight interest, Alice turned to Souyjuro.
普通じゃないな。髪を切ったぐらいでどうしたんだ一体。瞳子さんの髪が短いと青崎が困るのか？
まあその通りだけど。いいわ、どうせ夜まで暇だし説明ぐらいはしてあげる。あんたがそんなこと言わなければ未知数のまま瞳子と戦う羽目になっただろうし。
Akko knowingly glanced at Alice, her expression suggesting she was treating her. She was also likely seeking approval. Alice remained stoic as ever, her expression showing neither approval nor disapproval.
簡単に言うと魔術師にとっては
Yep.
髪の毛も武器ってことよ。昔から人間の髪や目は魔術の材料になりやすいの。女の場合はことさらにね。瞳の色は多いほどいいし、髪も長いほど質がいい。
Yep.
髪の毛は自身と同一視しやすいし、長い年月をかけて育てられる原始的で強力な原料と思ってくれていいわ。私が髪を伸ばしてるのはまあそういうこと。手入れが大変なんだけど、そこは女だから半分趣味みたいなもんよね。
Souyjuro glanced. What? Furtively? How do you pronounce that? Furtively. Furtive.
Furtive.
Oh no, yeah, I was right. Okay. Furtively at Alice, wondering if the same held true for her. Maybe Alice had cut it because it was a hassle to maintain. Sounded stupid, but then again, this was Alice. Souyjuro nodded to himself.
じゃあ青崎としてはいいことじゃないか。瞳子さんの髪短いんだから。
それがここに来る前に使い切ったものならいいんだけど、伸ばした髪にはいろいろと使い道があるのよ。私は瞬間的な術の強化にしか使えないけど、姉貴だったら高級的な術の補佐に使うはず。年月と想念を蓄えた髪は魔術師の分身とも言える。そういったものをね、死んじゃった犬だの猫だのを反言させるときに与えると、術者に服従する使い魔が出来上がるの。生前魔力のなかった使い魔。例えば猫とか犬ね。これらは術者の髪を取り込んで独自の魔術回路を得る。申請することで全く違う生き物、猫の魔術師になるってこと。例えば人語を介したり人間に化けてみたりって。 行動原理も変わってしまって、大抵は術者に似通った性格になるわ。そうよね、アリス。
Her last words came with a mocking smile. Alice silently ignored it.
じゃあ瞳子さんにはアリスのみたいな使い魔がいると。
そう見るのが妥当でしょうね。姉貴は20年以上伸ばし続けた髪と引き換えに強力な使い魔を用意したってことよ。
The fight at the amusement park. Just the thought of Alice Kuonji releasing flat snarks sent a shiver down Sojuro's spine. The oil of the moon had been a unique familiar, out of this world.
ほら、そこ心配しない。三崎町をぶっ壊す規模の使い魔なんてありっこないから。確かに長く歴史のある紙を使用するほど強力な使い魔が出来上がる。けど紙を使った魔術師はそれまで溜め込んできた山中のうちの一つを初めからやり直さないといけない。切った紙はまた伸ばさないといけないでしょ。使い魔を作るのは簡単だけど、そう多く従えないのはそういうことなの。
As Alko spoke, her mood visibly improved, as though she had made a breakthrough.
犬とか猫か。
Tilting his head to the side, you cannot imagine a world where dogs and cats were so powerful.
変ね。瞳子さんは人魚師よ。使い魔を作って自分のレベルを下げるのは協力者がいないだけでしょ。青崎のお家騒動に人の手を借りたくないから自分だけで全部やるつもりなのよ。あ、もしかして遊園地の人形って姉貴の紙で作られたんじゃないだろうな。確かに話に聞いた限りだと特注品ね。呪いによる永久期間、両手のギミック、フィンの一撃、執念深さ。瞳子さんでもゼロから作るのは難しいでしょうけど。けど何よアリス。あの人は人形に自己を投影するような人じゃないわ。完璧な偽物なら許すけど、偽物に過ぎない偽物は容赦なく壊してきた。青子から見てその特注人形は瞳子さんと同じ力量を持っていた。まさか遠く及ばないわよ、あんなの。なら瞳子さんの髪とあの人形は別件よ。あの人が自分の魔力を分け与えたほどの使い魔があと1体はいると見るべきね。専門家としての意見。つまりその使い魔は姉貴より強い。
That would be crazy.
そうでないと意味がないわ。
But I guess that's true.
人手が足りないというのもあるでしょうけど、だって私たちは2人、彼女は1人だもの。同時制圧も想定済みってわけ。なるほどね。その場合どっちが強い方を引き当てても恨みっこなしよ、アリス。ま、こと使いまであんたが遅れを取るとは思えないけど。
Alice had never been defeated by a familiar. She sighed at Alko's overconfidence.
青子、たとえ20年間の蓄えを付与したとしても、その器が小動物では限度があるわ。あの瞳子さんが切り札になる使い魔を用意したのなら、それはよしてよ。いくらなんでも姉貴はそこまで悪趣味じゃないわ。
Alko and Alice stared at each other. Conversation had returned to the drawing room, but the subject was not for the faint of heart.
そうね。けれど人間を追い詰めるのに最も効果的な相手は
What did she make
や
up
っぱり
homunculus?
人間なのよ。瞳子さんが死者を亡者にしていなくても、それと同格の相手がいるぐらいは覚悟しておいて。はいはい、分かったわよ。確かに天才ってやつは空気読めないから。 どんな生き物の死体を用意してきても驚かないわ。
Akko nodded reluctantly at Alice's directness. Needless to say, Souyjuro was completely lost.
よくわからないけど、なんで青崎たちは死んでるってことに固執するんだ？
それは使い魔じゃなくて協力者でしょ。使い魔は基本術者なくしては生きられないものにしないと。それでいて優れた意志を持ち、術者の資格や盲点を補える知性もある。それが一流の使い魔の条件よ。正直な話、それだけ都合のいいやつは死から作り直すしかないってわけ。
Completely obedient and capable of compensating for their mage's weaknesses, Souyjuro felt that a familiar was little different than himself.
さて、姉貴は昔からルーン使いだったから戦術は予測できる。問題の切り札もどうやら使い魔らしい。自動人形もさすがにこの前で使い切っただろうし。
Akko spoke directly to Alice, looking for confirmation. Alice thought in
じゃあ
agreement.
予定通り今日で終わりにしよう。この1ヶ月好き放題やられた借りギッタンギッタンにしてあのバカ兄貴に返してやる。
Akko clenched teeth and balled her fists. Clenched her teeth, yeah. It all seemed like nothing more than a sibling rivalry. In fact, that's probably all it was. Looking at Akko, Souyjuro let out a sigh of relief. With what happened with Toko and how they reacted to her visit, the atmosphere had been deathly tense. For now, though, Akko seemed much calmer. He took comfort in the thought that perhaps his sisters would just bury the hatchet. Poor Souyjuro. Even if Akko and Toko were not sisters, he would not want to see what would happen if they fought. The hands of the clock turned gently. Approaching Judgment Night, a merciless silence would soon come to mock Sojuro's complacency. Yeah, when you say a sentence like that, you can't really hope that it won't come to blows, but who knows? As night appeared, two things vanished. The snow! First was the whimsical snowfall. The second was the lights of their mansion on top of the hill. Akko and Alice were nowhere to be seen inside. Only Souyjuro remained. It was the night of Christmas Eve. Though Akko and Alice had yet to find Toko, they knew everything would be concluded over the course of this day and the next. Christmas comes but once a year. It was a singular time for endings and new beginnings. In Japan, the modern holiday dated back only about 100 years, and celebrated Christ's birthday only in name, with all its latter-day trappings. It was neither a pure homage nor a corruption of the festival that inspired it. Regardless, there was a significant increase in the land's mana during festivals. Such distortions were a boon to a mage's craft, be it creative or destructive. Toko Aozaki sought to destroy the local sigils, which gathered and properly cycled the magical energy of the land and its people. Souyjuro was able to gather that much from Akko and Alice's conversation. Toko had claimed 3 sigils. Did you know Matthew Mercer is 42 years old? Just, something fun that you should know. Actually, nah, let me not get sidetracked. Toko had already claimed 3 sigils. Only 2 remained. Any further loss would signal Akko and Alice's defeat. In order to protect the remaining ones, they had to split up. Akko lacked power, so she would need to borrow a ploy from Alice and head to the Tokugawa sigil, which boasted the greatest local energy supply. Alice would go fully equipped to the sigil with Yashirogi. Yoshirogi! Free from the constraints of civilized society, magecraft is most powerful at midnight. That makes sense. That makes sense. No bystanders unless if it's one random bystander. And even if it is, unfortunately, they'd probably kill them so that they wouldn't get caught. But you know, it's neither here nor there. Neither here nor there. The young witch and the apprentice mage wish each other luck before leaving the mansion. It was almost 10 at night. After the girls set out, the first 2 hours passed quickly. When Ako was ready to head off, Souyjuro walked with her to the foyer. Neither had spoken a word to each other. She had departed without showing any sign of fear. It was difficult to tell whether she didn't want to get him involved, or whether she did not see him a worthy ally in combat. The thought stuck with him. Good Lord, I can't talk. He let out a long sigh, not out of dejection or frustration. It was a mechanical, emotionless sigh, or emotionless breath. He sat on a near frozen floor, staring vacantly up at the skylight. Excuse me. Moonlight peeked through the clouds. He imagined the moonlight bouncing off the town's powdery blanket and illuminating the night. But he would not find himself downtown. Watching from the sidelines was his role to begin with. His roommates and he lived separate or worlds apart. He could not keep up with them. If he did not show the same kind of will, he would remain on the sidelines. However, Souyjuro looked up at the moon. Somewhere deep inside, he felt a trickle of sadness. He feels useless, yeah. Especially after the amusement park, I can see why. The bench. Veiled in white and cloaked in darkness, the park seemed like a forgotten memory. Not a soul was in sight. The night fell. No, my water bottle. No. Yo, you need to relax, Northern Liar. You need to relax. Wallahi, are we for real? Are we for real? Hold on. There's no way, right? There's no way. I'm sorry, I gotta check this in a second. So, the Rockets and the Warriors are playing a series right now, Game 7. It doesn't seem like it's going well. Let's see, how big is the lead right now? Oh no, not how big is the lead. Legit, the game is over. 103 to 89. 33 points from Buddy Hield. What? Hold on, wait a second. I gotta see this. 33 points from Buddy Hield. That man must have hit like 18 threes. There's no way. And I'm not even saying that like, oh, Buddy Hield's a bum. It's just, what did he do? Player stats, play by play. Yeah, like please tell me this. How many threes did he hit, bro? Oh, yeah, he hit 9. Of course they won. What the heck? He hit 9 threes, bro. I gotta watch that Pacers versus Cavaliers game, because that one sounds like fun. But the playoffs, man, the playoffs are here. Well, they've been here, but they're here. If I had a team to win it all, you know, there's nothing wrong with going with the Celtics. Nothing wrong with going with the Celtics. But if I couldn't choose them, I'll go with the OKC Thunder, because if I wanted to, if I didn't want to sell my parlay, I would choose them. I don't have a parlay, by the way. I don't bet. But yeah, night felt far more enigmatic than usual. Yet the air was clean enough to drink. Though only a sliver of moonlight peered through the clouds, it lit up the entire world. In those moments, the young girl's footsteps echoed, trampling the still. Those who know, the still white silence under a midnight sun. The pale moon illuminated the inky blue sky. Only a few streetlights and wow, it's a lot of words here. Okay, only a few streetlights and an incongruous phone booth betrayed signs of civilization. A girl appeared, dressed in black. Against the snowy landscape, the figure of Alice Quahog was unmistakable. Pure black, deeper than even the night, were her overcoat, gloves, and hat, even her hair. Even her hair and eyes. Nothing stirred for a moment. For a time. Not Alice, nor the white scenery. The world was still painting of a snowy field. Only time moved, gradually darkening the lights in the park, and eventually the nearby homes as well. Oh, that's cool. You can see the lights turn off. Yashirogi was a more modern and developed town than Misaki. Though the park was located in the center of town, it had become a blind spot. It had been overlooked by developers and carried no commercial value. A few houses encircled the park. The streetlights turned off at midnight. It was a white night. People, even machines, were fast asleep.
私が先なのに
Alice whispered, watching the streetlights slowly fade. She thought she heard a dog howling in the distance. Perhaps it was howling at the moon. The howl reached deeper into the night. Than expected. A wolf, maybe? But shh. Souyjuro. The phone rang. It was perhaps the first time it had rung since Souyjuro moved into the mansion. You're right, because no, actually, I think ever. Because even though Alice was sleeping near it, I don't think it rang. Hesitantly, he picked up the receiver and brought it to his ear. He heard nothing. He felt he had to say something, but could not think of what. Maybe something like, "Hello, Quahog residence," or maybe, "You've reached the Aozaki residence." While he was deep in thought, a voice as light as air came through the receiver. Souyjuro could barely hear the voice, but it was definitely Alice's.
そうだけど、アリス。
Oh goodness. I think I know what happened. Because my stomach just sank. I remembered something I shouldn't have. No response. The silence was as profound as the night. But for the sound of static from the receiver. Oh, the silence was as profound as night. But, gee goodness, the voice cracked. But for the sound of static from the receiver. After a long pause, Alice finally spoke.
いや、まだ帰ってないけど。
With a click, the call ended. Souyjuro wondered if she had something to say, but could not respond in time. Slowly they advanced, carving through the fresh snow. There were so many. Where had they all come from? Dozens of feral dogs snarled at Alice, their eyes trained on her. The snow clung to the beast's mangy fur. Their clenched fangs and bloodshot eyes hid a barely reined hunger that might burst forth like lightning at any moment. They yearned to taste her warm flesh and satiate their empty bellies. To them, the girl in black stood like a lighthouse in a stormy sea. She watched them, disinterested. It appeared that Yashirogi's sigil was the key target tonight, not Tokao, where Akko had gone. Alice had always been inflammable, and a child's play before her was hardly about to change that. Her main enemy was not the dog surrounding her, but the lone mage behind him, Toko Aozaki.
ひどい趣味。ここ数年で品が落ちたの。まあ、それならそれで嬉しいけど。これが地金なら、青崎との付き合いもいよいよ白紙に戻せるわ。
Toko laughed at the Toko laughed at the acerbic taunt. What in the world does that mean, dog? Let's see. Sharp and forthright. Tasting sour or bitter? Acerbic. Oh, that's Discord. There you go. Oh, the song ended. Please don't do it, please. I miss you.
Yeah, これは不可抗力でね。安心しろアリス。間違っても私の趣味じゃない。
Crunching through the fallen snow, Toko slowly came into view. She wore a moss green coat that contrasted sharply with Alice's garb. A silk scarf warmed her neck. She stood tall, her hair short, striking a more valiant posture than any young man. After all, the two standing here needed to be less like the shining moon and more like the darkness surrounding it. The barking abated. Like servants in a royal court, they averted their eyes from their ruler, lest their eyes and hearts be plucked out.
久しぶりだね、アリス。
瞳子さんもお元気そうで。
They stood about 12 feet apart. She's a little girl. She's literally a goblin. No love had been lost between them. Just two enemies, one who wants to be victorious, and one who was to fall.
さて、どうしようかアリス。積もる話もある。君の近況にも興味がある。5分ほど時間を割いても構わないか？
お断りよ。あなたと5分も話をしていたら。
The following events unfolded quickly. Boldly and without a second thought, Alice pulled out a cat's bell from the seam of her mantle and dropped it. Oh, that's cute. It's a little Neko. It's a cat. It got a little eye. Diddle diddle. The beginning of Alice Kawanji's Magecraft. The start to a night of fairy tales. Alco favored a quick draw approach, like something from the Western. However, Alice preferred sleight of hand. She used her target's blind spots against them, ending the game before they knew it had begun. The bell fell, like a coin into a fountain. Then, as it was about to strike the ground, it shattered, disappearing without a trace.
ああ、1日かけて公園中に刻ませてもらった。この公園の道はレンガだからね。手間こそかかったが簡単な仕事だった。周りの森まで見て、ざっと400平米のキャンバスだ。面白いだろ？今私たちは30万字以上のルーンの上にいる。
Swallowing hard, Alice took a step back. Tuckwad had carved runes all over the ground. Even in the area Ditto reacted to alone, there was a depressing amount of them, and she truly carved them into the whole park. Alice did not react with surprise. She simply narrowed her eyes. She could see how it would have taken the whole day. It was no wonder Diddle Diddle, Banquet of the Night, was destroyed by the skin of sun. Still, something bothered Alice.
どうやって隠していたの？
Was it the snow? There were just so many, What kind of magecraft could do that?
ああ、ちょっと特別性。このルーンね、普段は確定していないんだ。こうしている今も変形している。パッと見はただの傷跡。それが強い魔力に触れると元の形に立ち戻る。そんなわけで、いかなる夜の深さをもってしてもこの太陽は没しない。この通り、雪が降ってくれたおかげで視覚的なごまかしも万全だったしね。
Because they're changing, and because it's smelled, it's hard to see. That's insane, bro. She spoke modestly, but Alice could not imagine the amount of persistence, technique, and skill it must have taken. It only took a day. Even 10 mages would have trouble producing so many sophisticated runes in that time. Moreover, these runes were made using unknown techniques the association had not proved.
負け惜しみだけど、私みたいな小娘一人に大人げないわね。どうか。
バカを言うな。君を小娘だなんて一度も思ったことはないよ。まあ、私好みの体だと眠めつけることはあったがね。
It happened in the blink of an eye. Alice cut off Toko's snide remark with a deadly stare. The left eye of the darkly clad girl changed color to an ominous ruby. The speed of the incantation was phenomenal. Alice's mystic eyes of enthralling snared Toko. She had been the one to quite literally be taken captive by the girl's stare. Toko tried to raise her arm, but could not even move a finger. Alice's mystic eyes commanded absolute control, with no room for resistance. Only a person's internal organs were allowed the freedom to move. Since their organs still functioned, it was more precise to say that her eyes forbid the target from acting. That's cool. Alice had played her hand with exquisite timing. It wasn't the speed of her eyes that had given her an edge. The deftness which she wove her spells to exploit the briefest vulnerability is what made Alice a different caliber to other mages like Alko. This witch, who lived hidden in a modern era, was more seasoned in magical battles than Toko Aozaki.
だが残念。ディドルディドルが響かないのでは、魔眼のアクロスティック化はできないようだね。
What does this mean? Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. So that's what that means. That's cool. Junin Hyundai. Alright, how far are we now? An hour and 30. Hour and 30. You know, not bad. See how far I can go. So, oh, never mind.
惜しいね。あの月目のプロエキシャーなら、これで私の方はお手上げだったろうが。
The formation holding Toko began to distort. In the blink of an eye, the mage had bested Alice's mystic eyes. Alice's black outfit fluttered in the wind. She turned so she was not facing Oko head on. The mage had recovered through her own mystic eyes. At the root of Toko's mystic eyes was a spell of mesmerize. Most effective when facing their prey, such eyes could mind jack a target's awareness. It was difficult to resist head on. However, its effect was greatly diminished if the target was not facing the eyes directly, even if it was within range. Moreover, the girl was the last of her lineage, who commanded a great number of fairy tales. Against mystic eyes projected their effects, simply turning one's body was enough to repel half of the magical energy. Like Alice's eyes, Toko's could also disable actions. Alice had escaped by the skin of her teeth. The damage she suffered was the weight of a twig to a forest. She just had to let the energy pass. In an instant, a startling chill ran through Alice's body. This was a problem. The touch of death ran up her spine. She glared at the mage before her as blue rubber balls flowed out from underneath her coat. The stare-off grew more intense. Alice glared harder, resisting Toko's mystic eyes with her own. Losing was not an option. In terms of raw magic or energy, Alice Kalonji's mystic eyes were more powerful and advanced than Toko's. Surely nobody could beat her. And yet, her unfiltered stock of magical energy, stifled by old-fashioned values, were no match for Toko's madness. Deeper within her eyes, somehow the eyes revealed a sealed power. How deep do they go? Good lord. Inside the crystalline lens of the mage's left iris was a bottomless pit, a Klein cube. Alice winced in pain. The bindings grew in number. So many mystic eyes, thousands perhaps, and all fixed on Alice. Pressure, so much pressure, endless, and Alice knew it. She saw, incredulously, she saw eyes growing within eyes. Toko had placed opposing mirrors inside her eyes, resulting in an infinite glare. It was the act of a madwoman, creating mystic eyes within mystic eyes. She could even control the resulting chaos caused by all the copies. Her insanity knew no bounds. No mage in her right mind would mass-produce so many mystics, the last escape of humanity, so indiscriminately.
やれやれ、これもお気に召さないか。私なりにマインスターの真似事をしてみたつもりなんだが、うまくできているだろう。君の悪路のように希少な神秘で現実をねじ曲げるのではなく、量産した神秘で現実をねじ伏せる。物自体はただの間が、だがその男性には果てがない。相手がどれほどの魔力抵抗を持っていようと、それ以上の魔力で拘束するだけのものだ。
She wielded power without limit to disable an opponent. Once she was caught in them, one was changed to the concept of infinity. Projection type eyes had a fatal flaw. Their firepower and formulae were insignificant compared to the great artillery of incanted spells, but Toko had torn down the conventional wisdom with brute strength. If the gun was a pea shooter, she simply needed to bring more guns. A 9mm bullet could never destroy a fortress, unless one threw a fortress mass of bullets at it. The principle was brutishly simple, but in the world of magecraft where concepts decided supremacy, Toko's iterative mystic eyes were the perfect weapon. The target would be bound until she closed her eyes. In theory, at least, the effects were infinite. No amount of magical energy could ever overcome it, so it was utterly futile to resist using magical energy. Of course, one way to counter it would be to stay out of Toko's line of sight to begin with. The standard tactic against mystic eyes was to defeat the user before they were aware of it. There was, however, another way. It was simpler than one might think.
ともあれ、これで罪だ。
Oh, what's the other way? Alice could no longer see her enemy. Toko's infinite eyes had bound her. All she could make out was a sliver of moonlight, and a blue streak tracing its way towards her.
結構悔いのない人生で羨ましい。
She drew a rune in the air, unleashing a shockwave to tear flesh asunder. The gusts became blades of air that shredded Alice's overcoat and minced. Huh. Blue feathers floated all around. Toko felt something behind her and turned. 5 cat-shaped bells were thrown at their feet. And just as quickly as they shattered to pieces, standing before her was a completely unharmed Alice Quahog.
そよ風みたいなルーンね。どうこさん、本当に鈍った。
セミか。術者の身代わりになるプロイの話は聞いてなかったな。
ええ。1年のうち365日は役立たずで、どうしてあんなのが古参なのか、私も疑問だけど。
As if responding to Alice's words, a bird began chirping frantically. An anonymous sacrifice. Who killed Cock Robin echoed into the night, sung out a tune.
そんな歌もあったな。だがあれは一度に1回しか殺されない。2度目はないし、あったとしても。
The bird squawked at a very unbird-like death throat. From behind Alice, the blue robin fell from his tree, a victim of Toko's mystic eyes.
本当に使えない。
Poor Robin. God rest your soul.
ではやり直しだ。あとも使えている。これで終わりにしよう、アリス。どのみちこの公園では手がないだろ。
そうでもないわ。確かに今の私にあなたの魔眼は破れないけれど、 Beauty of his wood and clay, wood and clay, wood and clay, beauty of his wood and clay, my fair lady.
The song came from the depths of the earth, stirring a mighty quake to mark the birth of something gargantuan. Toko needed to throw Alice into an infinite hell before whatever that was could be completed, but she was far too late.
Wood and clay will wash away, falling down, falling down. Beauty of his big samurai, my fair lady.
The ground burst to life. A finger, then another, and another, all rising up like towers. Earth, snow, and brick knitted together, manifesting a giant stone golem.
バカな話があるか。なぜこいつが出てきやがる。
Toko was so angry and confused she could barely gather her thoughts. The bridge giant, the monster from the monster's fairy tales, rose from the ground, ruining Toko's plan. The giant was extremely powerful, but could only be summoned under one condition. It must be in proximity to a natural river. That was the monster's one and only condition. But this park was nowhere near one, and on top of that, it was rising up directly between Toko and Alice mid-battle.
あら、あるでしょう。すぐそこに。川と呼ぶには小さな、すぐに消えてしまうものだけど。
Toko lowered her gaze. She was standing in a puddle of water. The scarred red mage was dumbfounded. That's why Alice had used Diddle Diddle before. While the bells could be replenished, they were valuable to Alice, as she had spent 5, throwing them in an intentional line for the sun runes to be destroyed. From there,
気の気の流水か。
the arms of Thames Troll rose up from the stone pavement. The monster's torso alone surpassed 80 feet. Its form was made entirely of stone. Previously, she had created one using the trees of the forest. However, Toko knew instantly the monster before her was at least twice as powerful.
止まれ。
She unleashed her stacked mystic eyes. They were meaningless at this stage. They had no effect on the giant. As said, mystic eyes could be counted in two ways. The first is to hide oneself from the view of the mage. That was the standard response. The other way, however, was devilishly simple yet 100% effective. In fact, it's less of a way and more of a fact. Mystic eyes curse the target by focusing on them. However, what if the target was too focused or too large to focus on entirely? Oh wow. Yeah, no, he's right. Or she'd be right. If you can't see all of the giant, then how can you do that? One could barely stop a single arm. The giant, unfazed, raised his right arm and swung it down onto the ground, destroying thousands of runes. Oh, so sorry. The demolished stones were then absorbed into its arm, adding to its mass. As the mage has said before, no matter how deep the night, these little suns don't set. Sorry, just saw something. While the suns might not set, they could be crushed under the bulk of a giant's hand. The victor of the battle was decided. Toko Aozaki closed her eyes and prepared to escape. The stray dogs began to whine, fearful of the hulking figure behind them or before them.
私ではマインスターには勝てなかったか。まあ、そのあたりは今後の課題としよう。
呆れた。逃げられると思っているの？トウコさん。
まさか。そこまで鈍ってはいないよ、アリス。第一、逃げるとしたら、それは私の方じゃないからね。
There was no hint of bravado in Toko's tone. Even in the face of a titan she had no means of harming, her confidence was unshakable. The reason being,
ま、前座は終わりだ。来い。ま、前座は終わりだ。来い、レオ。
this is no longer a battle of skill. A fight for survival had begun. Snap went into Toko's fingers. Her response, a beautiful high-pitched melody, floated up toward the moon. It echoed all over them, all around them. The spiral howl dredged up ancient, primal memories. Its sword emerged from the shadows and landed next to the mage. Alice's lips trembled faintly, not from fear, but with admiration, once she recognized the creature before her. It was a majestic golden beast, beyond the domain of both magical and phantasmal, simply divine. It was a life that should have passed from the world with the age of gods, a mystic derived from human wisdom, preserved by thousands of generations of hidden tradition, a recreation of miracle that once freely walked the earth, the natural enemy of magecraft, able to crush it with ease. Quiet resignation settled over Alice's face. The golden beast charged. This time, she didn't even have a chance to admit defeat. She could hear the beast breathing in her ear. It seemed she had been unconscious for a short time. Alice opened her eyes and took a deep breath. Each cough sent pain shooting through her body. Blood rose in the pit of her stomach as she spat it into the cold ground. When her vision returned, she was able to make out the distant sky, falling snow and the golden wolf. The wolf panted. It stared at Alice, saliva dripping from its mouth onto her cheek. Razor-sharp fangs lined its jaw. Its fur was glossier than that of any animal she had ever seen. Brutal, knife-like claws protruded from its massive blood-stained paws. And yet, It did not smell like a beast. Surely the presence of such a noble creature, a human would feel like a lesser animal. The battle between Alice and the wolf was over before it had begun. After destroying the troll, it baptized Alice with its wicked claws, giving her no chance to escape. Its side swipe tore into her abdomen like a sword, carving through her clothes and flesh, all the way to her heart. Even so, not once did Alice make a sound. The wolf had her pinned and stared at her face. Her limbs felt ready to break at any moment. That was the situation she found herself in. Now fully conscious, Alice stared at her enemy through pained eyes. She felt no fear, only cold reality sinking in. Sensing Alice's demeanor, the wolf suddenly paused, its paws still raised. They looked into each other's eyes. The wolf's voice came as a surprise. There was no doubt it had spoken. The wolf's voice sounded innocent, almost childlike. In complete contrast to what had happened up to the point, the wolf smiled. The wolf opened its mouth wide and clamped its jaws around Alice's neck. Toko's tone was sharper than the wolf's fangs. The wolf froze. He let go and slowly turned his head towards the voice. The wolf backed away from Alice, as if no longer interested in its prey. To the golden beast, she was little more than an old chew toy.
なんだ、もう意識が戻ったのか。心もタフなら体も大概だな。
Barely clinging to life, Alice stared at Toko, but not a stare of hatred and defeat, but one of disbelief. Alice simply wondered why Toko had brought such a beast.
ああ、紹介が遅れたな。彼はおそらく地上で現存している最後の人狼だ。北欧の奥地に生きる彼らの一族の中に現れた生粋の原種だよ。見ての通り、先祖返りなんて言葉じゃ表せない黄金の神秘でね。名前がなかったんで、わかりやすくベオウルフと呼んでいる。ベオウルフ。
Alice's face was perplexed, even though she hadn't wavered when she was disemboweled. Beowulf, the name of the heroic giant slayer from Danish legend, came from Old English, a combination of honeybee and a wild beast, a bear, in other words.
なんでそんなちぐはぐな名前を。
いや、可愛いからに決まってるだろ。
Perhaps because of the name, or because of the golden beast itself. Fighting the pain, Alice struggled to read Toko. In this respect, she was worse than Alka.
ついでに説明しておくと、周りの犬どもはベオが勝手に呼び寄せたものだ。私自身、マインスターの娘がただの畜生に傷つけられるとは思ってはいないよ。
Man.
今のところは。
Toko's mouth twisted into a grin. Not the world one Souyjuro saw, but the merciless smile the victor displays to a loser. The disdain in Alice's eyes turned to anger. The golden mystic, how could Toko have brought such a creature into a human world?
需要と供給だよ。過疎化は人間だけの問題じゃない。彼らもいい加減、昔ながらの生活には限界が来たらしくてね。話し合いの末、高額で私が買い取った。と言っても、あくまで里から出すだけの権利だがね。お察しの通り、私の髪はベオとの契約に使い切った。 自分の髪を使って分身を作るより強大な怪物を縛り付けた方がよっぽど
Well, while she was talking, Toko noticed something strange. An unusual sound. Huh? A preternatural. Time to look it up. Oh man, I have never seen that word before. Preternatural.
Preternatural.
Preternatural. I'm so sorry if you could hear that, by the way. A preternatural sound that tore at the mind. A sound that should not have existed. And it was coming from the girl's open abdomen.
もう復元が始まったか。いや、
何この匂い。トウコさん、なんかワクワクすること起きてない？
Curious, Beowulf moved closer, like a puppy examining a new toy.
見るな、あっちに行っていろベオ。正気を失っても知らんぞ。
Toko shooed the mud away with her hand. Beowulf lowered his head meekly and withdrew.
教育方針を間違ったかな。まったく、乙女の腹を見ようなんて恥を知れ恥を。
トウコさんだって見てるじゃない。
バカ。私は乙女だからいいんだ。
If Akko had been there, she would have blasted them away for their impotence, just as she did against Flat Snark.
しかしむごいな。こんなになるまで放っておくとは。マインスターは人の親とは言えないよ。
With her gloved hand, Toko ran her fingers along the wound on Alice's abdomen. A flash of pain ran through Alice's body. Alice had held in her screams, but she finally let out a long breath. She turned her face away, in pain or shame.
もう肌も復元している。骨格、血管はおろか、内臓にまで施された。生後、肉体に魔術回路を付加することは諸刃の剣だ。呪文と自分を一体化させることにより栄唱の手間を省き、しかしそれは多ければ多いほど苦痛を伴う。青崎の刻印は腕一本分。まあ君に比べれば少ない方だな。
The magic crest Toko referred to were the inheritance of the Awazaki family, passed down by their ancestors. They can only be inherited. Akko ever received the ones that were meant for Toko.
しかしそれも良し悪しだな。右腕に刻印をした青子の痛みは残る人間の体と神秘となった右腕とが反発する程度だ。通常の肉体が右腕を否定し抹消にかかる痛み。精神的にも肉体的にも生じる幻痛は現在にも似て拭い去ることはできない。だがここまで来ると痛みも何もあるまい。そもそも生きている実感はあるのか？自分が人間だとまだ信じている？ああ、本当にお互い非凡な死を持つと苦労するね、アリス。
Toko took Alice's body in her arms. The wounds from Beowulf had mostly healed. Even so, her breathing was shallow, likely due to the pain. Toko gently held the girl's face in her hand.
マインスターには恩がある。それに私の相手はあくまで青子一人だ。
Ma'am, what are you doing? Alice's lungs pinned for oxygen. Toko pressed her lips to hers. The young girl wriggled, trying to escape, but Toko held her firmly. Beneath the blue moon, the two remained frozen. Then, the sound of swallowing. something solid slid down Alice's throat. With that, she went limp and her arm fell. After settling Alice down on her side, Toko stood up.
今のは七かまどに手を加えた私の特製品だ。そう簡単に解毒はできない。魔力を流せば体の中で暴発する仕組みになっているから気をつけなさい。ああ、口移しは私の趣味だから特に気にすることはないよ。
Why? What? As she desperately clung to consciousness, Alice looked up at Toko from the ground. The disgrace from the kiss was greater than the pain she felt in her body. Toko began walking away, her golden wolf in tow. Neither looked back to Alice to see Alice's hateful glare.
そうそう、一つ言い忘れていた。レオが呼び寄せた野犬たちだけどね。公園の外にまだ山ほどいるんだが、困ったことに彼らは本来何を口にするべきかを思い出している。レオの野生に刺激されたんだろう。獣はより強い獣に従うものだからな。
In a roundabout way, Toko had read Alice her last rites. In nature, it was common for the weak that could no longer move to offer their bodies up to feed the strong.
私は行くよ。歩くことも満足にできないだろうが、無事に帰れるといいね、アリス。
With a twisted grin, the mage headed into the darkness. As the footsteps faded, the sound of growls grew louder. Alice could still barely focus her eyes. The hounds looked like monsters out of a picture book. Alice took a deep breath, her consciousness slipping away. The sky was blue, the trees were tall. The park was a graveyard. In the corner of her eye, though, Alice could just barely make out a solitary phone booth. The phone rang. It was the second time Souyjuro had heard its voice echo through the cold foyer. Only a few minutes had passed since Alice called. Let me see something real quick. Sorry to break up the tension, but I have to look something up. Let's see. Oh man, that was dark. He wondered what she could want this time. The call persisted, determined to not leave him to his thoughts.
はい、クオンジュですが。
Oh, he said it.
その声は宗十郎くん？
A cheery voice. Souyjuro had been expecting Alice. It was Toko Aozaki. Somehow, Souyjuro was not surprised.
そうですけど、トウコさん、暇なんですか？
He checked the time. He thought it was about midnight by now. No matter what the situation, Souyjuro always kept his cool. He could hear Toko trying to suppress a laugh. After taking a while to compose herself, she started talking again.
ちょっとツボ入っちゃったみたい。で、質問の開始ね。これがあんまり暇じゃないな。私も今日で終わらせる予定だから忙しいんだ。
偶然ですね。青崎もそんなことを言ってました。
やっぱりそうね。こういう時は本当に姉妹だなって思うわ。昔からエンジンかけるタイミングだけは一緒だったから、あのことは。ところで、青崎はやめてって言ったでしょ。私も青崎だからくすぐったいのよね。そう言われるの。
Souyjuro realized she was probably right. Aozaki's words made more sense
そんな
now.
わけだから長話をする気はないんだ。担当直入に聞くけど。
It almost sounded like she was worried about her sister's whereabouts. But the cool-headed Souyjuro had not forgotten Toko was their enemy. Keeping Alko and Alice in mind, he decided to be evasive.
なんて答えてほしいんですか、トウコさんとしては。
The question shifted the tone of the conversation drastically. Souyjuro could hear Toko muttering to herself in annoyance. Souyjuro was proving more quick-witted than she had anticipated. A change of tack was required.
君には何も答えてほしくないっていうのが正解かな。第一印象で君を無視するのは良くない気がしてたけど、やっぱり私は宗十郎君を手にかけたくはないみたい。君はこのまま無関係でいてちょうだいね。
She didn't say his name. Her warning came from the heart. Souyjuro responded flatly, once again not giving any sign either way. Seemed she wanted him to stay out of this too. Even Souyjuro could tell the girls were being kind in their own way. But who asked for their kindness?
じゃあ、さよならね。私は君が思ってるほど暇じゃないから。でも、最後に一つだけ。君を試すようで悪いんだけど、伝えておかないと一生恨まれそうだし。なんで、そうならないように、責任の半分を君に押し付けちゃおうかな。
Toko giggled. The laughter showed she had him in the palm of her hand from the
さっ
beginning.
きクオンジさんに会ってきたの。彼女から電話があったでしょ。
Her tone had not changed. She sounded as cordial as before. Even so, as soon as Souyjuro heard Alice's name, Butcher went up his spine.
今ひどい状態なんだ。満足に歩けないどころか、体中の刻印が活性化して破裂寸前。宗十郎君が骨折の痛みを知ってるなら、うまい例えようがあるんだけどね。まあ、ともかくだ。いつ気を失ってもおかしくない状態なんだけど、災難なことに怖い野犬に囲まれてるみたいなの。個人的な意見だけど。
She spoke as if she was telling a joke. If it was a joke, it was in bad taste. However, Souyjuro knew this was anything but. She was telling the truth. He had not heard of the dogs attacking anyone in town, but the noise he heard while on the phone was Alice. With Alice, it suddenly made sense. Dogs. A pack of them. No doubt about it, they were surrounding their prey. Huh? Okay, am I bugging or is this... What in the world does that mean? Kind on. That legit is a phrase, wow. Yeah, no, I never heard of that before. Why had he not cottoned on sooner? Squeezing the receiver in his hand, Souyjuro cursed himself. Alice had been calling for help. Even went back into a corner. She had not wanted to involve Souyjuro. Still, she needed help. The way she said his name so lightly. He spoke abruptly. Even though he knew Toko was the enemy, he was confident she would answer him. That was the reason she called. Souyjuro realized what was happening. He was being tested. By ignoring Alice, he would be confirming that he did not want to get involved. Please see if he decided to save her. Souyjuro ignored Toko's question. Of course, he was not prepared to become her enemy, but he was even less prepared to let Alice die. He had lost his ability to think sensibly. Not that he was particularly good at it about that to begin with. Still, he would not waste any time in deliberation. He would simply go with his instincts. One of the few moments he had felt pride since coming down from the mountains. As he listened, Sojuro's expression turned to one of irritation. Misaki and Yashiroki were one station apart. How long would it take to get to the station from the mansion? Usually just under 12 minutes. By the time he got off the train at Yashiroki, Nearly 30 minutes would have
地図
passed.
の上じゃ近いのに区画整理された交通手段は不便よね。けど急げば最終の電車には間に合うわ。ここで諦めた方が賢明だけど、君はもう私の敵だから。どっちにしたって後悔。
Oh.
どっちにしたって後悔のないようにね。
The line went dead. There you go. Souyjuro, not Toko, hung up the phone. He memorized the map and then made for the door. With no time to grab his coat, he ran out into the snowy winter night with the clothes he had on. All that remained in the hall was the discarded map. It showed Misaki City. It was about 10 miles from the mansion to the nature park. 5 if you went in a straight line, but the streets were not that forgiving. 4 inches on the map was so much farther in reality. For the first time, Souyjuro cursed the town. Man. That was not 4 hours. You're bugging. What the heck? Hold on, give me 1 second. Oh no, yeah, I'm definitely not playing Oblivion. Let's see, how long has it been? 2 hours. 2 hours. I think I'm going to go for as long as I can. I'm not tired, so at least there's that, but let's see. Alice's injuries were not limited to her abdomen. The wolf had punched a hole straight through her back, crushing her lower vertebrae and leaving both her legs paralyzed. Though her magic crests were repairing the damage, it would likely take another hour before recovery. At the very least, her heart and slender arms still worked. Although after crawling along the ground to the phone booth, those too were failing her. As the crest healed her wounds, a searing heat ran through her body that threatened to overwhelm her. It was as if her body was no longer her own, like she was transforming into another creature. The poison throbbing through her open wounds hurt emotionally more than physically. She was used to pain, but she could not accept this disquieting feeling. Not that she had any intention to. The moment she did it would be her last. Alice wrestled with the discomfort from her abdomen and her magic crest. We're going to game 7. Yo, can you shut up, bro? With her consciousness holding on by a thread, she took the phone in her hand. Oof, blood all over it. It was unlikely Alka would be there to pick up. Even so, with the stray dogs gathering around the booth, she had to try. It was Souyjuro who picked up. Alice knew she was better off just hanging up, but his name slipped out of her mouth. After pausing and fighting with herself for some time, an image of the innocent boy came to mind, and she hung up. Her instincts had won out. She could not let him get involved. And not just because he was an innocent bystander. It was more than that. To Alice, Souyjuro appeared that day because he was merely in the wrong place at the wrong time. Only the lightest of breaths passed her lips. Above her, the moon began to blur. Snow was falling again, so close yet so far. The dogs began hurling themselves at the phone booth to the chorus of hungry snarls. Thunk, thunk. She took one last deep breath and closed her eyes. Glass, an unusual material for a coffin. But the girl knew, in some corner of her mind, that she had made the right choice not to ask the boy for help. Some time passed. A peculiar sight came into view. A field of wildflowers. The clear sky was too blue. The flowers, so numerous they made the field look barren. The sight was dazzlingly beautiful. She wished she could look away. This was probably all thanks to Father Winter. The cold wind carried us in a paradise far removed, untainted by man or beast. It was a glimpse of the fields beyond winter. One could be forgiven for thinking they were the afterlife. Come to think of it, she remembered how funerals were sad, yet always beautiful. She cried. She made an incongruous whine, a sound of life. Her breathing was strained and erratic. Hollow and useless was the heart that she once used to fend off pain. It was as though she was in a space between disconnected body and mind. A crying woman and a silent child. High was the sky, deep was the forest, unmoving were the people. No footsteps or voices of salvation came. Who was that looking innocently up at the sky in the stillness? When she came to, Alice was going up a familiar hill. The cold night air had all but frozen her hands and her feet. She shook, as you would expect from someone whose abdomen had been torn apart. Then the song comes back. She could barely comprehend that she was being carried slowly up Shiro Inuzuka. Aw, that's a really sweet CG. Oh man, that's a really sweet CG. Good lord. This game's trying to get people to cry, bro. Look at that. Command shift. Never mind. Yeah, so it just resets. Souyjuro had Alice on his back and was silently ascending the slope. His calm eyes seemed to be suffering from the bitter cold. He did not seem to be dressed for the time of year. Not even a coat. His exposed neck and hands were ice cold. Alice asked, still slumped over his. Oh, that's so cute. Oh man, it's so sad, but it's so cute. She tried to move, but to no avail. The last thing she wanted was to rest her entire weight on someone else.
瞳子さんから電話があった。アリスが危ないって。青崎はともかく、アリスは意地を張りすぎだ。あの状況で助けを呼ばないのはどうかしてる。
Souyjuro spoke with a scolding tone, his eyes kept firmly ahead. His words were directed at himself rather than the girl on his back.
しずきくんは関係ないもの。
だろうね。けど、これで関係はできた。館に着いたら話してもらうぞ。
Souyjuro focused on climbing the hill. The slope would get steeper from here to the mansion. The thought of Souyjuro climbing a steep hill with her on his back surprised Alice.
降りるわ。もう大丈夫だから。
お腹をむき出しでかい。この方が少しは暖かいよ。それにアリスは薪より軽い。山じゃこの程度は朝飯前だから気にしないでくれ。まあその意味はなかったんだが。
なぜ？
俺が着いたら犬はさっさと散っていった。初めから瞳子さんはそういうつもりだったんだ。アリスをどうにかするつもりもなければ時間制限もなかった。喜ぶべきことなんだろうけど。
Souyjuro said dejectedly. But he was wrong. While Toko did not want to kill Alice per se, she would not have cared if she had died. At least that was the way Alice saw it. She did not know how long it took Souyjuro to get to the park, but if he had not come, the phone booth would have collapsed and she would be dead. Alice did her best to suppress her thoughts and feelings. She felt silly at the thought of correcting him, and it would matter little anyway. The thought of her trying to thank him was more painful than her open woods.
もしかして公園からずっと。
You know how far that is? Good lord.
仕方ないだろう。電車終わってたんだから。タクシーを使えばよかったんだけど、あいにく持ち合わせがなくて。今日ほどお金の不便さを思い知った日はない。
For the first time today, Souyjuro let out a sigh. There was no point in taking a break. He already traveled close to 6 miles like this. Perhaps the fatigue was getting to him. Souyjuro was more upset with his own weakness and the difficulty of the trek.
でもそれを言うならお金の大切さじゃない。
使えるものがあるのにお金がないだけで使えないんだから、それって不便って言わないか？
The innocence of his question made Alice briefly forget her pain. She too felt distant from the real world, but compared to the boy carrying her, she felt like a regular citizen. No. Bye bye, honey.
何かあなたらしいわ。
Alice smiled to herself. As Alice rested her head, something soft touched her cheek. The collar Alco had given him.
館に着いたら着替えるんだ。お腹の血も拭って、落ち着いたら今で話そう。瞳子さんに言わせれば、俺もこれで敵らしいから。
With those words hanging in the air, they reached the top of the hill. The gate in the woods stood before them. Beyond it, illuminated by the pale moonlight, stood the mansion. Looking up at it, the girl felt a little disappointed. A natural reaction, yet she could not place where her sadness was coming from. Once they entered the mansion, Alice slid off Sojuro's back and walked towards the west wing. The west wing was her dominion. However, only after a few steps, she collapsed to the floor. Soujuro rushed over to her, but she raised her hand. Her gesture told him he was not to come closer. He stopped in his tracks, a concerned look on his face. Her pale skin gleamed with sweat. Her expression was uncharacteristically strained.
平気。部屋に戻るぐらいの力は戻ったわ。服を繕ってくるから。すぐに戻ってくるから。そうしたら。
The pained look in Alice's eyes told Soujuro they would talk later. He knew he could not stop her. Soujuro reminded himself that she was the one in pain, not him.
それじゃあ、戻ってきたら話を聞かせてくれ。
Alice took a deep breath before slowly disappearing down the corridor. An uneventful 5 minutes passed. Alice returned wearing a fresh set of black clothes. Her complexion remained pallid. With a small sigh, she carefully leaned against a pillar in the foyer and slid down there until she was sitting.
アリス、傷が痛むなら無理せず横になった方がいい。
Soujuro sat across from her on the cold floor.
傷はもう痛まないわ。横になる必要もない。この体の異常は七かまどを飲まされたせいだから。
じゃあ、せめて毛布とか。
いいから気遣いはしないで。ここなら寒さも関係ないから。
She seemed to be telling the truth. Soujuro remembered Alco telling him that as long as Alice is inside the mansion, she would be comfortable.
あったかいのならいい。それで、七かまどっていうのは？
薬草の一種よ。7回かまどで焼いても燃え残ることから付けられた名前で、紅葉は魔除け。普通の人には良くない程度だけど、私や青子には少し厄介ね。体内での魔力生成そのものに抵抗されてしまうから手の打ちようがない。
毒と思っていいのか？
いえ、本来は薬草よ。今は傷を治すために魔力を使っているから苦しいけど、傷が完治すればおとなしくなるわ。魔術さえ使わなければ七かまども反応しないから。単純な話、七かまどを消化するまで私は役には立たないだけ。
Garpson, Garpson, Garpson. Alice paused. She decided not to say how many days that would take.
別に しずきくんが心配することじゃないわ。こんな血が流れる程度の痛みだから。
She worked hard to keep her tone calm. Akko had barely blinked when she was struck in the back. Some mages must have an unusually high pain threshold. Souyjuro was surprised and bewildered by what she said. If wounds didn't count as long as the pain wasn't too bad, then nothing would hurt except an injury that killed you.
分かった。話をするのは明日にしよう。今日はとにかく体を休めてほしい。
明日になっても
いいんだ、それでも。アリスはもっと
明日になっても私の容体は変わらないけど。
いいんだ、それでも。アリスはもっと体を大事にしてくれ。
He stood up.
部屋まで送るよ。それとも今で休むか？西館には入ったことがないから、アリスの部屋もわからないし。
ここでいいわ。青子を待たなくちゃいけないから。
Alice looked up at the skylight. The moonlight illuminated her pained face. The foyer looked like it belonged to a rundown castle. Only the moon and Alice seemed more vivid than reality. Where did her strength come from? Souyjuro stared at her, without understanding the significance of Alice's gaze. He turned his gaze to the night sky, powerless as it was. For the third time that night, the silence was broken by the sound of the phone ringing. Before Souyjuro could move, a tiny shadow bolted across the foyer. By the time he realized it was the weakened Alice, she had already taken the receiver in her hand. It was the first time Souyjuro heard Alice sound concerned. Her tone was infinitely graver than when she was enduring her own pain. Alice's question received only a short response from the voice on the other end. It was a voice more frail than Alice's, like a flickering flame about to turn to smoke. The phone was far from Sojuro's ears, but the words he picked up were very unlike her. Despite saying so little, no, because she had said so little, the weight of Alko's defeat struck Souyjuro hard. Alice silently set the receiver down. Only moments before, her body had been fighting the pain. Now it felt stronger than ever. It was like a scarecrow transforming into a beautiful stone statue. Seeing this, Souyjuro finally understood. Alice's expression when she looked at the moon had come from her trying to accept an unmutable reality. Wow. What a chapter. That was insane. Good lord. Yeah, no, I'm gonna end it there. Because that was crazy, but like, man, what a chapter. Yep, cleaning up all this. Yeah, that was a crazy chapter. That was an insane chapter. Chapter 10. Employees, yep, all that. Man. Wow, that was crazy. That was crazy. Witch on the Holy Night 1. Insane. Insane. Extra CGs. Yep, just that the third. This one. This one right here. This is adorable. I love this so much. Oh man. Good lord. Well, yeah, no, that's Witch of the Holy Night for tonight. How long did I go for? Almost 2.5 hours. That's pretty decent. That's pretty decent. Like, genuinely, I would keep going, but considering that I know the chapters are going to be even longer, I'd rather just not do that right now, because I've already been streaming for 2.5 hours, so it's better to not try to, test my luck. But I did mention last stream that I wanted to show you guys something, so let me do just that. This song's kind of fire, by the way. I like this song. But oh, helping ring. Yeah, let me see. Where's this game? I want to show you guys this game. So this is Mini Mart. This is the game that I was talking about that I was playing. If you're not interested, I don't blame you. This is literally just like a mobile game on computer. And because, you know, YouTube has these games, it's like, oh shoot. I got bored one day and I was like, you know what, why not try one of these? And I did. And this is how it turned out. This game basically, you start off in this little lot. You buy like plots of land. So here you have chickens, you have tomatoes, eggs that, you know, you get from the chickens, you sell them here, sell the tomatoes here, turn the tomatoes into paste over here with this machine, then you sell the paste over here. This is bread. You get it by making wheat, turning that into like bread, like canned bread. Excuse me, no. From like mashed wheat. Then you turn that wheat into like bread by, putting it here with eggs. And then you put the bread here. And then you have milk from the cows over here. You know, feed them wheat, they produce the milk. You sell the milk over here. And then you have two cash registers. Nothing crazy. Sometimes you get thieves that come to try to steal your money. All you have to do is just run up to them, hit them with I forgot what it's called, like a little net, kind of like a little net. And then there's a car that comes over here where they ask for like, oh, give me 6 eggs, 8 tomato paste, and 10 bread. And you bring it. Once you give them all of it, they'll give you money. And it's usually like from like 50 to 200. It's nothing crazy. But, you know, we make money. Everything's maxed out that I could buy. I played this game a lot. And the funny thing is, it's not even the only thing either. Like, I have another one. I have another store. It's called a Cafe Mart. And, you know, we dabble a little bit. We dabble in like the Starbucks-like activities. Now this one, you know, we have coffee beans, we have wheat once again, we have milk with the cows because, you know, it's a coffee place, so coffee isn't just coffee. We have milk, we have all sorts of things. We have carrots here too. I forgot exactly what the carrots do, but you put these two together, you make the coffee here. You put the coffee, or you put the carrots here. You make a little juice, you make a smoothie. And you put them over here, up in the top. And then, you know, that's cool. That's all well and good. But, yeah, no. Legit, we have apples that grow on trees. We have carrots growing underground. It's, you know, it's a calm little area. Compared to the first one, I like this one's, like, formatting a little better. I like the way it's presented, how it's laid out. But the first one, I think, is better. I do think the first one's better. But yeah, you know, same verse, or well, that's whatever the phrase goes. First, same verse, first, same as the first, or whatever, something like that. But what's it called? Yeah, I've just been having some fun with this game. Nothing crazy. We're like genuinely nothing crazy. But yeah, that's what I've been playing. Could I have been playing something else? Yes, wholeheartedly yes. Valhalla. Why in the world is Valhalla still installed on my computer? It shouldn't be. There you go. You have to hold escape. Yeah, no, but like, this is what I've been playing. At a certain point, I just leave it on in the background, and then whatever money I make, whether I lose money because of thieves or whether I make money, you know, I leave it up to fate. So, you know, whatever happens, happens. But yeah, you know, that's what I've been playing. A little calm game. And yeah, no, another stream in the books. Another stream in the books. So did I already put it in VODs? Yes, I did. But yeah, you know, a stream 2 days, two in the same day, kind of a little crazy. From 2 hours to almost 2 hours and 30 minutes. You know, I gotta say, fellas, I gotta say, everybody, kind of a crazy stream. But yeah, no, I can't wait to play more. I think I might try to like finish the game. I'm gonna try to upload like in between then, but I do want to finish the game because it's been a while since I streamed. Legit, it had been a month, like over a month since I streamed this game. And between that, the streams, the streams were long because like 3 hours, an hour and 30, shorter stream, almost 2 hours. Like, that's still crazy. And so having a 2 hour stream and then like probably like a two and a half, 2 hours and 40 minute stream, like that's still decent. I'm not like a streaming guy because like there are people who stream longer. Regardless of that, there are people who stream infinitely longer. But still want to finish this game, so I'm gonna try to do that. And then I have plans. I have Blast Blue here. I do want to play that for one stream. Risk of Rain Returns. I do want to show you guys what I have on there as well. Probably be like an in-between stream. Who knows? I don't know. But yeah, we have those. But what I'm excited for is what I have on my Steam. Games, few games library. Good lord, they know what they're doing. Oh, I have 37 hours on this game. That's kind of crazy. That's fire though. But yeah, once we're done with that, not this game. Why is this game still here? I gotta uninstall it at some point. But yeah, more for space, not because I don't like the game. I love this game. But yeah, I got this game I need to play. Wholeheartedly I need to play it because I've been wanting to play it for a while. I love Sonic Generations. It was legit the first Sonic game I ever played, so I'm super excited for that. And then Steins Gate. Like, I need to play both of these. And trust and believe, this is going to be long. It's going to be really long. I also want to play Claire Expedition 33. I do want to play that game. I have to buy it, but yeah, I'm super excited. But yeah, no, thank you all so much for watching. A bit of a longer stream, earlier at least, so that's good. But yeah, hope you have a great rest of your day. I don't know when I'm streaming next. I'm gonna see what happens, but another one in the history books. But until then, this has been Infamous Isaac, and I hope you all have a great rest of your night. Later.